Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Stuff with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we are talking to Chuck-Robertson, and it's a talk about an author of A Simple Man's Study of Ezra. So I want you to get comfy, get cozy, get your cup of coffee or your tea, and let's get settled in as we start to have this wonderful conversation. So let's give the mic to Chuck. Good morning, Chuck. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me on.
I am so glad that you are here. I want to definitely talk about your book, but I want to ask you in your own words before we get started, who is Chuck Robertson? What do you like to do? Who are you? What are some fine points about you?
Oh, well, I'm not anybody in particular. I born-again Christian, 40-plus years, and I not particularly scholarly. I've not gone to any Bible schools, but I have graduated college and have a degree. So I'm just a normal, everyday person.
I like that answer. So many times, God has this awesome way of allowing us to have an experience that just kind of dumps it all into us. You know, it's like we get this instant download, and then we're able to witness and give such a profound testimony to how great God can be in a particular instant. So I definitely understand that. Now, your book, A Simple Man's Study of Ezra. I have to ask, why did you decide to do a study of Ezra as opposed to anyone else?
Well, I like the Old Testament, and this is actually my second book, and so I'm doing a group of them, all pertaining to the founding of, reestablishing of Jerusalem during the Persian Empire.
Now, I like how you say that it's a simple man's study. So should that kind of relax the reader in that they don't have to have a degree in theology to be able to read your book? It can be the average Joe and Jane can enjoy the book?
That's the intention, yes.
So even though it's the average American or the average Joe and Jane, do you have a particular demographic that you were looking for? Is it great for someone who is 18? Is it also good for someone who may be 78? Or should we be a more mature Christian? Or is it for that new believer as well?
It is for everybody, geared towards new believers or the younger believers, those that have trouble studying the Bible because the words, things that they've read are just over their heads. This is geared for them to help them understand the Bible and to see God in it.
Do you think that many new believers sometimes have a hard time in seeing God in the day-to-day that we have just in our day-to-day living?
I do. I think we need to train ourselves to look for Him, to see Him, like in Scriptures, to look for His character.
And then that is so incredibly true. And I think that so many times people think that when you start to say certain things that it becomes a little corny or sappy when you say, I went to the park and I saw God in, the trees or in the birds that went by or in the giggles of the little kids. It's like we can't, society doesn't want for us to make those connections, that it is sometimes the very simplest or purest of things that we do have that connection with God in those moments, and we're reminded of just how interconnected we all really are. Now, did you think when you were a younger person, so let's think like teenage or even perhaps your college years, did you think that you were going to be an author, that you would write a book?
Never had a clue, and didn't even have a clue when I got it written. English was not my strong suit in school.
Now, did you feel that, though, and with A Simple Man's Study of Ezra being your second book, did you feel that the time was just right, that this was the moment that you needed to start on this project?
For this book, yes. I mean, there was this number of years in between the time when I wrote the first one and this one. One of the reasons was because I got married right after the first one was done. And so it took a while, but it took a lot of prayer and time saying which one. So I had to wait for guidance and direction.
Now, let me ask you this question. So many times people will write a devotional or they write a novel, but it looks like you kind of turn more towards writing a Bible study. Why did you choose to write more of a Bible study type of book as opposed to just a simple devotional?
Well, actually the whole concept and the writing of anything was an accident to me. I set out to study the scriptures just for my own knowledge, and in the process ended up writing this long paper. And a friend of mine that was a published author, we were talking one day, and he looked at it, and he said, "Oh, we got to get this published." Until then, I'd never thought of it as anything than my own personal study.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that is amazing that you followed through with that, and it ended up being, a successful work that you've done. That is awesome. Now, when did you start studying the Bible, or when do you feel that you kind of took on your spiritual development seriously?
Oh, it's been a slow growth off and on over the years. I first studied when I was a new Christian, and I was involved with a youth ministry in the town where I lived. And then after some ups and downs and starts and stops, approximately, maybe 15 years or 16 years ago, really started studying intently. Now,
have you found that as you have begun to study and really spend more time in your development, that you have come to understand God differently, that all that we have been taught, like as kids and as young adults and all of that, that your understanding of who Christ is and how he is a part of our lives, do you find that has changed over time?
It has changed in that I understand more completely. And I understand how the things that I initially learned were so very shallow, for lack of a better word, and didn't tell a complete story. And so the more I learn, the more completely I understand God the Father and Jesus and the work of the Holy Spirit.
It is so interesting how, we grow as Christians, and depending on what's going on in our world or in our lives at that particular time, we have a certain understanding. And I think that it is just so awesome that as we have our birthdays along this journey called our life, that we are able to grow in our faith and share that with other people, and it really does make a difference. Now, you mentioned that you have written another book, that this is book number 2. So it sounds like you have some experience in writing. Can you tell us a little bit about the other book as well?
The other book is Simple Man's Study of Esther, which is a fascinating story. It's more than just a Cinderella story. It's got everything in it from politics to intrigue and suspense and some fun.
Now, is there any particular reason why at that particular time you chose to choose Esther as the person that you would talk about?
Yeah, I was sitting in church one day, listening to a sermon, and the speaker was took his scripture from Ruth, and I had heard a number of sermons and talks about Ruth, and it dawned on me at the time that I'd never heard anybody from the pulpit talk about Esther, and it made me curious, so I decided to start studying Esther so I could find out more about it, and other than just having read it.
Right. Now, it's so interesting how certain churches and certain denominations do kind of focus on different things, and you get a different type of education or spiritual development depending on where you choose to go to church. I'm talking about denominationally. So that is quite interesting. You're so right about that. Now, what do you want the readers to learn about your book? And I'm asking on twofold. When we're talking about the book about Esther as well as the book about Ezra, what do you want people to take away from either book?
Oh, golly. I want them to understand how the Old Testament and the New Testament are blend together and are actually a one unit. And I want them to be able to read and see, like I said, see God, see how He is working and pick out His personality and His character in the Scriptures so that they can see Him in everyday life.
To be able to see Him in everyday life. I have to agree with you on that one. Well, Chuck, it's just about time for us to go to break, and I want to give you an opportunity to please remind everyone, what is the title of your book, where can they pick up a copy, and how can we follow you online?
Okay. Well, I have the Simple Man's Study of Esther and the Simple Man's Study of Ezra. I have a website at simplemanstudy.com. The book is available at Barnes & Noble bookstore online, at Amazon, and, of course, from Westbow Press, the publisher.
All righty, listeners. Now you know where you can pick up a copy. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know, which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative? I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Before every slam, I pick out 7 outfits. 7. One for every match I need to win. I wouldn't pick 7 outfits if I didn't plan on wearing them all.
Smell Good Spa for the women who are making a conscientious change in their personal care products. Specializing in signature fragrance oils, hand-dipped incense, and wholesome bath and body and personal care products. Smell Good Spa. Use code HELLO25 for 25% off your order. Live good, feel good, smell good wholesomely. SmellGoodSpa.com.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Sparks with Dr. Angela. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you. And today we are talking about your spiritual development. I have on with me Chuck-Robertson, and he is the author of A Simple Man's Study of Ezra. Now, we have learned in this interview today that guess what? He also has a book that he talks about Esther as well. So you can learn even more, and I love it. Now, Chuck, let me ask you this. It says it's a simple man's study of Ezra. So you use the word man in your title. We know that Ezra is a man. Does that mean that this book is written for men, or is it written for everyone?
This book is written for everyone, and I knew when I had the title that it would be a little confusing, which is why I put the apostrophe in there, indicating that the simple man is me, and that it is for everyone, not just men, not just young or old. This is for everyone interested in knowing the God's Scriptures and knowing more about Him.
I really like that. So it is for everyone. And, you know, I think nowadays, even though we do see gender words, I think that we are starting to understand that the possessive word of man, a man's, like you said, man with an apostrophe S, we understand that to be, you know, human, humankind, that we can, it is all inclusive. And I'm so glad that you did that. Now, as far as the book is concerned, did you decide that you wanted to write a lengthy book, or were you going for a quick read? What was your idea when you first started writing?
Well, when I first started writing, my idea was just to put down what few things I personally understood. And it developed from there to just going from one thing to another, and God kept showing me more and more things. And when I was talking to people, I would get clues or say, oh, yeah, well, did you catch this or that? So I learned some more from people as I was talking to them, and then I'd go back and look at it, study it, and say, oh, yeah, I see that now. And so that's a lot of things that I was learning at the time that I was started. And so it's all it was all new to me.
And I like how so many times when I get a chance to interview authors, that they think that the book is going to go in one direction, and God ends up gently nudging them into a different direction. And when it's all said and done, they're like, oh, my gosh, that is an awesome book. And it's like, thank God for doing exactly what you were supposed to do, and that is nudge me and get me where you need it to be. I really, really like that. Now, in being an author, so many times we have an idea of what that means. So, if you will, I really like to ask the questions from the perspective of, I know there's someone out there listening who is an aspiring author, and they would love to be able to pick your brain about your process, because everyone does it a little bit differently. Did you find that in your writing, that did it energize you, or did you find that you were exhausted, like mentally exhausted at the end of the day once you were done writing? How did you feel in the process?
Oh, the process initially was a little hard and tiring, but the more I did it and the more I stuck to it, I was found myself more energized and actually finding that I am enjoying this more and more with each passing study sessions, so that I actually looked forward to it and found myself thinking about it during the day at work. And when I jot down things that would come to mind so that when I went home and then started to study, I could check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
the process for me was simply sticking to it.
Right, and not allowing distractions to come and kind of eat up your time. Now,
right.
So many times in the movies, we used to see that someone was, I'm an author or I'm a novelist, and they would go off to the cabin in the woods, and it's them and their trusty typewriter, stacks of paper, and lots of coffee. What would you say is the environment or the atmosphere that you like to create or that you need in order for you to really be your writing best? Nowadays it might be like a Starbucks or, the office that's in the garage. What works best for you?
For me, just getting alone in my study and the silence, the quiet, which allows me to hear God and to think out things and to take the time without any distractions. If I go outside or a Starbucks or anywhere, I had all these distractions around me. And for myself, I need the quiet. And, of course, in my study, I have the availability. I have a lot of books that I can turn to and read to follow up on questions or just get general information.
Now, do you have other friends that are writers or authors as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Do I have other plans?
Do you have other friends that are authors or writers as well?
Well, no, not really. I've got a number of friends that are pastors. They do a lot of writing. And I have one friend who is a published author. He writes westerns, and he's also an attorney. But so I don't see him as much as I would like. But as far as writing books and thoughts, not too many people I know actually have tried it or thought about it.
Now, for those who do write, and even though so many pastors, if we thought about it, if they could do a collection of works and that all of the sermons that they've had to put together, and that would make for, a very interesting read many times, because to be able to look at the printed version of what was delivered or presented in a worship service can really, hit home for a lot of people. But do you find that of those who are writing, do you ever discuss the process of writing, or that you get writer's block or any of those things with those who do write?
Well, I have tried to talk to like some of the pastors, or I know some people that have written papers for magazines or professional papers, and try to find out, a little bit of basically like what you're asking, how did you do it? How do you get it done? Well, what happens? And most of them say, well, you know what, I just go in with an idea, and then I try to expound on that idea, and when roadblocks come up or something, I turn around and try doing some research. And I found that for myself that I have to do a lot of research first, reading a lot of different books, and including not just, commentaries or other types of books, but I find that history books are very valuable for this too, because I find that understanding some things that happen in history help us to understand what's going on in the scriptures or in what we're reading, and then it helps me to expand on and explain it to others. As an example, if I may, in my book of Esther, it starts off with a banquet being thrown by the king, and this is an extremely long banquet of 160 days, which everybody says is not going to happen unless you look at history and you realize that this man is planning a war. And he has to call together all these kings and minor kings in his empire to help him. And so he has this banquet, calls them in. Well, They can only travel by camel and horse, so it takes a long time for those that are a long ways away to get there. So he maintains this banquet, this ongoing thing, to entertain and to plan his war.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got that from history, when we learned that King Xerxes is planning a war against Greece. So I find that a lot of different things are involved with writing, and some of it is just educating yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have to agree with you on that, and it's so wonderful when we do have the information in books. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a Google it type of gal as well as, everyone else in the world, and I do appreciate being able to do that, but it's so wonderful to have it in book form, to be able to go back and really see the words, to touch the words, so to speak, to be able to highlight it and just say, okay, I have this tangible copy of what has happened. It is something about having that book in hand. You are so right about that. But let me ask you about a word called success. Now, we all understand success to mean a particular thing, but as an author, I want to add the word literary to that. So what does literary success look like to you?
I don't know. I'm still looking for it. Literary success to me would mean that people have read my books and found them to be informative and enabled them to learn, to grow, and to be more knowledgeable about God, about all things, and to be edified by them. I don't, to me, the success is not in the numbers or even in the dollars or anything. It's what the people get from your book that makes you a success.
I love it. It's what people get from your book that makes you the literary success. Love that answer, because I think that is so true, in that if someone has gained a priceless bit of information, it's priceless. That's the value. It's not just what they paid for the book. It's what they were able to retain or get out of that book. I love it. I really, really love it. Now, when you are writing, Chuck, have you found that there is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit before, that there's a certain amount of time that you needed? Did you find that you were able to, get in there and you could solidly write for 4 or 5 hours, or was it more so your goal is to just get the idea, whatever's in your head, out, and then you kind of take it from there?
Oh, golly. It varied. During the week, of course, I worked full-time, so time was limited to when I got home, and it would be, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Weekends, I could do more and try to do more. And so it varied from time to time, and sometimes I would go in enthusiastic and happy and ready to get going. Other times it would be a drudge, and I'd say, okay, I don't really want to do this, God, but let's give it a try anyways, and ask and pray and ask for help. So it varied a lot.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for just giving those honest and open answers. And it really does, when I get the feedback from our audience, I absolutely love it. And you guys, you know that you can always go to drangelachester.com, click on that contact tab, and say, hey, that is so awesome. Don't forget to ask this question. And I will definitely be sure to follow up and ask those questions. That's why I ask, because you have asked me to ask our authors, and I love finding out how each one is a little bit different. Well, Chuck Robertson, I know that someone out there has really said, you know what, he's given me the answer that I need, a little bit at a time, and just keep going forward. And you have inspired someone to write their book. Like you said, you had a day job and you became an author at the same time. So, yes, it can absolutely, positively be done. Well, our time is up for today, but thank you so much for being on the show. But before you go, I want to make sure that everyone is reminded of what is the name of your book, where can they get a copy, and how can we follow you online?
Well, my book is A Simple Man's Study of Esther and A Simple Man's Study of Ezra. And they're available online at Barnes & Noble or at Amazon, and, of course, at Westbow Press. My website for the book is asimplemanstudy.com, and you can always buy one from there.
Mm-hmm. Chuck Robertson, thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Thank you so much for letting me come on your show.
And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in as well. And as always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.